What if I told you there was a sun god who had a hidden name and creation powers like Nika? And even more mind-blowing is that this sun god sailed on his sun boat like the Thousand Sunny. Stay tuned to the end of the video because there is an insane amount of evidence to back this up. And at the very end, we will be joined by a very special guest and his thoughts on the theory. And so without further ado, today I will be telling you why Luffy is the Egyptian sun god of creation, Ra. The most legendary god in Egypt is Ra, also known as Re, the sun god of creation. Ra emerged from nothing but chaos. His father was the universe, and some say the endless vast space was a giant ocean. Like Zeus in Greek mythology, Ra was the king of the gods. Since he was the god of creation and the sun, he created other gods like wind and water gods. There's a story of his first children leaving for a while and not coming back. Ra becomes sad and worried, but eventually they did come back, and this made him so joyful that in this emotional state, human beings were born from his tears. Ra was known to fight against the darkness, to bring light to the world every day. He would sail across the heavens, the underworld, and the Nile River on his sun boat. He brought together a crew of gods and they would join him as he endlessly sailed and defeated the many beasts of the darkness. Ra had a mortal form like many of the first generation Egyptian gods. Like a zone devil fruit, Ra has multiple forms which are different depictions that came from different areas in Egypt. His most common form is his falcon face form. There's a mythical tree of life in Ra's temple in Heliopolis, and there are forbidden fruits like devil fruits that are only meant to be eaten by Pharaoh. The animals that are connected to Ra include the falcon or hawk, as that is the most known form of his face, the lion, which we will discuss, and the phoenix, which represents being reborn, the rebirth of the sun god. There's also other animals like ram, which is what Ra would use in his journeys to the underworld. In his early years, Ra was the greatest god of all, the king of the gods and a pharaoh to humanity with his own city. But time would not be so generous, as he would eventually become senile after thousands of years. He lost his respect of his followers, and this brings us to the tale of Ra's secret name. In One Piece, we learn about the Gomu Gomu no Mi having a secret name, hidden by the world government. This name is the Hito Hito no Mi mythical model Nika, a sun god devil fruit, the devil fruit of creation. Some may argue that Ra was manipulated by Isis, the magical goddess of wisdom and magic, and others might say that she helped him transcend past his failing age into the heavens. In this mythology, Ra's power comes from his name, which is part of his soul, called a Ren. It's a hidden name that only he knew of, because if anyone was to find out his true hidden name, they would inherit the source of his power. Isis created a cobra out of Ra's golden jewel, and Ra was not able to defeat the snake as its venomous bites bring the god to his knees. It's a pain that hurts so bad like a burning fire, but it was something different, something that he's never experienced before. The truth is, he's being hurt by his own power, so it's impossible to figure out what to do. And so Ra asks for the help of all the healing gods, and none of them are able to do anything. Eventually Isis tells Ra that the only way that she can help him is if he tells her true name. He tells her a few of his fake names and names that the humans gave him, but eventually he understands that it is the only way, and so Isis inherits the godly solar powers that are passed down as Ra tells her his one true hidden name that he's been hiding in his soul. In One Piece, the name being hidden is much different, but it is a government conspiracy, with Who's Who saying how a prison guard vanished after telling him about Nika. This name had been changed intentionally, and it is a very powerful name to the world. And similarly, the ancient kingdom also has a very powerful message with the ideology of freedom, possibly liberation. And so now let's talk about the city that was dedicated to Ra the sun god, Heliopolis, in the sun temples. And let's start off with a fun fact. Did you know that Heliopolis, Letopolis, and Giza form a perfect Pythagorean triangle? Just like in One Piece, it's been speculated that the Egyptians had ancient technology, and that's how they were able to build the pyramids and the temples. Heliopolis was a massive ancient city in Egypt. In the past, it was a hub for religion and knowledge, but sadly not much of the city remains today. Heliopolis is the city of the sun, and it was also home to the sun god Atun-Ra. And so real quick, let's talk about inherited will and how it is portrayed in Egyptian mythology. In Egyptian mythology, it can be a bit confusing because there are different generations of gods. For example, Ra is the first god ever created, but there's also other sun gods who would carry on his power after he essentially got too old and retired. Ra was so important that many pantheons, gods, and pharaohs were known to merge their name with Ra. Amun-Ra is one of the names that is oftentimes confused with Ra. They are different beings, but Amun-Ra carries on the power and the legacy of a sun deity as well. And so this is why there is inherited will in Egyptian mythology, which fits perfectly with One Piece. And this is why Amun-Ra was also the one who lived in Heliopolis when it was a city dedicated to Ra. There are Old Kingdom pyramid texts that refer to a location of Heliopolis as the House of Ra, which is also in the Bible, and these old texts could be similar to the Poneglyphs. There are priests who spoke of Atun Captain Ra returning, and this could possibly be the return of the sun after a massive historical event like a great flood, because Ra was the first being who was created through the primeval waters, and some believe that Heliopolis was the location of the primordial mount and the mount of creation. But let me read you an inscription that refers to the stretching of the court ceremony, as that reminded me of Nika and the fruit being able to stretch like rubber and being connected to the sun god. The king has built the great temple of Ra Horakti in conformity with the horizon which bears his disc. The cord was stretched by his majesty himself. Having held the rod in his hands was Seshat. The king could be a joy boy, the king of the ancient kingdom, a possible pirate king of the past. A temple aligned with the horizon, another reference to the sun, and stretching it himself could be Nika, who could stretch and create anything with his creation powers. And so the rod could be known as the sword that Joy Boy had in the past, or maybe Luffy will create a weapon that is similar to a rod, and some people have said maybe even a staff like in Sun Wukong. Richard Wilkinson is an Egyptologist, and he claims that the Great Temple of Ra Horakti is connected to Heliopolis, which was associated to the solar god of the heavens, depicted as the Leo constellation, a mythical cosmic lion. He believes that the constellation is a direct reference to the sun god Ra. Ra Horakti symbolizes the sun rising in the east, the place where the gods were born, the east like Luffy was born in the East Blue where his journey begins, and the dawn like Romance Dawn in the first chapter of One Piece. And we also know that there is a big theme with the dawn. Horakti translates to the Horus of horizons, the morning sun, the return of the dawn, and now the horizons, Ra Horakti. And so now let's talk about something completely mind-blowing. The sun god Ra, who had the Thousand Sunny as his ship. The solar cosmic lion represents the sun, and just like the Thousand Sunny, it's the sun but also a lion. Lions are the guardians of the eastern and western horizons in Egyptian mythology, just like Luffy is coming from the east, and just like Luffy is now a sun guardian deity. In chapter 62 of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, there is a specific statement that refers to the lion of the sun, and it says, "May I be granted power over the waters, for I am the one who crosses the sky. I am the lion of Ra." The power over the water, like Luffy said, he wishes to be the most free man on the sea. Luffy also crosses over the sky when he visits Skypiea, and he's the captain of the Thousand Sunny, like the Lion of Ra. We also see the sun flying and blasting into the sunset or into the sky as the shards fly away from Garp in Water 7 or in Opening 9 of One Piece. This connection to Ra and the Sunny gets even more interesting when you consider that Ra was known as the guy who travels on the sun boat just like Luffy. Ra had two glistening golden sun boats. The boat that he sailed during the day was known as the Boat of a Million Years, the Man Jet, and he traveled throughout the underworld in the night in the Mescatet. The Boat of a Million Years is interesting to me because it reminds me of the Thousand Sunny the most. Instead of a million, we have 1,000, and they are both sun boats. Frankie designed the Sunny with the intention of being symbolic of a golden lion, and Iceberg is the one who named it the Thousand Sunny. So once again, the lion and the sun reference. Ra was known for traveling on his boat and lighting up the world, like the Straw Hats bring light to everyone. Luffy brings liberty, hope, and joy. At night, Ra would travel into the underworld. Earlier I mentioned that during Ra's travels to the underworld, he would battle terrifying creatures of darkness with his crew of deities. I plan on making an entire video on this topic, but Luffy and the Straw Hats are a god squad. They are mixed with demons and gods, Luffy being the sun god, Robin being inspired by Shiva and also having a demonic form, Zoro who is a self-proclaimed king of hell, a man who resembles the god of blades Ryuma, and then there's also God Usopp and Sanji who may have Lunarian DNA, a group of religious figures who all sail together on the sun boat. Sun god Ra was famous for battling giant serpents, and one time a giant snake swallowed the sun boat, which resulted in darkness even during the day. But Ra was so powerful that the serpent was not able to consume him and digest his power. Ra eventually broke free, and this event will be seen to the world as a legendary solar eclipse. Let me jog your memory real quick because there were two giant serpents in Shandora, Kashigami and Nola. The first one Kashigami, who was worshipped as the sun god. The second one is Nola, who is the grandson of Kashigami and is the one who ate Luffy during the Skypiea arc, just like Ra, who was eaten by a giant snake. Ra is most famous for the sun disc he always wears on his head. It's a disc that represents the power of the sun. No matter what form he's in, the sun disc is what makes him recognizable. The straw hat is what makes Luffy so recognizable, being a part of his identity, known as the Straw Hat Luffy. The sun disc obviously resembles the sun, but what if I told you that the straw hat does as well? The straw hat representing the inherited will of Roger, Shanks, and possibly even Joy Boy. But more importantly, the straw hat is what farmers wear to block out the sun. With the sun shining so bright, many theorists have speculated that Luffy's straw hat represents the sun itself. So Luffy, who is the sun god, the man who sails on the sun boat, and I've said it plenty of times before and I'll say it again, Luffy giving the straw hat to Shanks could symbolize Luffy finally fully embracing the power of the sun and accepting his role as Nika. And so now let's talk about the story of Raw's eye. But before we get to that, I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe, as this video took so much time to research, edit, and record. And so now let's enjoy the story of Raw's eye. Raw stabbed his eye out and created what is known as the famous Raw Eye symbol. After having a conversation with the universe or his father, Raw was told to stab out his eye, and in this process he created what is known as the famous Raw Eye symbol, as a giant beastly lion-like creature attacked humanity. In the very first chapter, we see Luffy stab his own eye, and with what we know now, it seems like Nika chose Luffy since the mythical zone had a will of his own. So could it have something to do with Luffy stabbing out his own eye being some kind of ritual to the sun god, a possible reference to Raw's eye being stabbed and creating a lion. And so now quickly let's talk about Enies Lobby and the gates of Ra. In Egyptian mythology, the horizon are the gates of Ra. This reminded me of the gates in Enies Lobby, especially when you consider that Enies Lobby is the Never Night Island. Ra is the sun god who battles the darkness, so Enies Lobby would definitely have a connection to sun god Nika. Maybe the theories of the One Piece being at Enies Lobby are true. And when we talk about Ra, do you wonder about the allies of the ancient kingdom being connected to One Piece? We have Alabasta, which represents Egypt. Skypiea is the sky and they worship the sun, and Fishman Island, who also has a sun tree. This proves that many of the ancient kingdom are connected to sun god Nika. There's also Wano, who awaits the dawn as sun god Nika returns to Luffy. And when we're talking about Egypt and the inspiration being included in One Piece, we can't forget about Enel and his journey to the moon. During Enel's journey to the moon, we see multiple Egyptian inspired poneglyphs in a story depicting the winged race's journey to or from the moon. And with the sun and moon dynamic, with Nika being shown in front of the full moon in Wano, I think there could be something to this with Nika being involved. And Nell might have actually learned the truth about the moon and Nika from his adventures, or maybe the original Nika was an alien from space like Ra, who was created out of the vastness of the universe, which is shown as a giant ocean in Egyptian mythology. And who knows, maybe we'll have a sequel of One Piece in the distant future, a story about space pirates traveling in an endless journey around space. After all, we do know that there are space pirates somewhere out there from the cover story. Besides Ra, Nika and Skypiea might have a similar relation to Quetzalcoatl, also other religious similarities. For example, there's also theories that Luffy is the One Piece representation of Jesus, since we know that there is a Bible in One Piece from Kuma. But at the end of the day, I do believe that Luffy was mostly inspired by Ra, although Luffy being an embodiment of freedom and happiness could be from something else entirely. And so for my final thoughts, I think it's interesting to see what Ra represents. It's easier for Luffy to take outside influence and spark his creativity, but for Ra, or maybe the original Nika in One Piece, creating things out of thin air and creating things out of nothing is truly what makes this a godlike ability. If Luffy can tap into this side of the devil fruit, his potential is truly endless, and this is exactly what the Gorosei feared. This does make Luffy's devil fruit broken, and this is why people are saying this changes everything. Having the Gorosei freak out about having endless creation abilities only limited by one's imagination really sounds like it was inspired by Ra. What if the sun god did create all of the devil fruits in One Piece? Maybe he even created the deities like Yamato's wolf and Kaido's dragon specifically. With all this information on Ra, let me know in the comments, what do you think this means for Luffy moving forward? The possibilities of his devil fruit now seem endless. And shout out to Threevil for his take on the Eye of Ra and the Egyptian connection to Blackbeard. What's going on, Threevil? How's it going?
Yo, Big Chun, and yourself, bro?
Yeah, pretty good. So, we're doing the sun god of creation Ra. I know you're big on the Hanuman theory, and what do you think about it contradicting against the sun god Ra, or do you think it's Oda coming inspired from multiple different inspirations and different gods in the One Piece world?
Great question. I definitely believe Oda gets inspired from like many different countries, religions, you know, different pieces of history. He definitely gets inspired by like multiple things, and he kind of combines it into one. So I come from the standpoint of like, when you look at Fishman Island, there is a squid named Daedalus who had a friend named Icarus. But in One Piece, the squid Daedalus died by going too close to the sun. And when you look at like actual real life mythology and legend, it was actually Icarus that died by going too close to the sun, which to me is like, okay, obviously Oda calculated this, but he switched it around. Now that's one legend that's a part of One Piece. But then when you look at the ancient weapons, you have like Poseidon, right? Where Poseidon's like Greek. So clearly Oda's like, all right, I'm gonna grab something from here, I'm gonna grab something from there. yada yada yada. Now, when it comes to Luffy, he can, since Luffy, he is simple, but he's still complex at the same time, especially with this whole sun god stuff going on. I do wholeheartedly believe that him and the Monkey D family is based on Hanuman, with all the same similarities of Hanuman to Luffy. And then when you even look at the fathers of Hanuman, how Cassidy is the Lord of the Winds, being so damn similar to like Zebek. Or I'm Dragon. I'm tripping. Dragon. So when you look at one of the fathers for Hanuman, you have Vayu, which is known as Lord of the Winds, which would be similar to Dragon. You know, I guess that's a safe headcanon. And then you have another father for Hanuman named Cassidy, who is a chief for like a military force, basically. And to me, it's just like, bro, what is the chances of that? So I would say like that part of Luffy could be based on Hanuman. But when you look at like the whole sun god kind of concept, you know, you have sun god Ra from Egyptian mythology, as well as there's a Greek god named Nika, which is like spelled Nike, like Nike. And they're known for winning and being peaceful and, you know, good spirited and stuff like that. So if you combine Greek god Nika with sun god Ra, I feel like that's sun god Nika, or at least sun god Ra to an extent.
It's interesting because if you look at Luffy, right, people are saying, okay, he has this new power, but we haven't seen from the sun god perspective, it doesn't seem like sun powers, you know, powers from the sun or whatever. But I'm thinking, do you think Oda was planning this from the start, or do you think it's been like over time he's thought of more and more different things to add into his story, at least with the sun god and all that with Nika?
I think at least for like the core basis, like the foundation of the story and Luffy's been planned from the start. That's what motivated me to do the Hanuman video. I actually went into it where I was like, okay, he's gonna have to have some kind of Zoan fruit, some kind of Hito no Mi, and I feel like Hanuman's definitely based off Luffy. And even though technically he doesn't have the Hanuman fruit, I still believe like Luffy is a character with Garp and dragons based on Hanuman. But as far as the sun god stuff, my second initial thought, I don't have proof of this, but maybe you could take my word. I was definitely going towards like the Nika fruit, sun god Nika fruit. And even my homie Captain Golden Boy, he literally made a video about Luffy having the sun god Nika fruit. So yeah, I definitely believe that was planned from the start. And I really like how you pointed out like the sun god powers.
Yeah.
Like Luffy's not really emphasizing that. I think this is like a title, and it's really meant to be like a metaphorical purpose for the story, with Luffy bringing the dawn, you know, Luffy being the light, and him being like the sun god. I think it's more of a metaphor thing. He might have, you know, sun related attacks, fire related attacks, but I think more than anything, it's more metaphorical.
Yeah, for me, when I was doing the research and everything, I was looking at different sun gods and everything. And then for Ra, I don't know if you noticed, but he had a sun boat, which is like the Thousand Sunny.
That's tight.
That's crazy, right? So you made the Blackbeard theory too. So talk a little bit about the Blackbeard theory, the Eye of Ra, the Eye of Horus, whatever it was with that. And because, you know, the Eye of Ra is really important symbol in Egyptian mythology. So
yeah, so with Luffy taking on the the Eye of Ra, or being sun god Ra to an extent. Now, I'm not saying every tiny little detail about sun god Ra will apply to Luffy. Of course, that's not what's going to happen. But, you know, a big part of that lore is there being a second eye. It's basically a pair of two eyes, and the other eye is the Eye of Horus. And the Eye of Horus is known for being affiliated with the moon, is basically being related to the moon. And like, as you know, like everybody knows, if you're at least chapter 1000 by now, like, you know, there's a lot of emphasis on the dawn, there's a lot of emphasis on the sun, and then there's a lot of emphasis on the moon. You look at NL, who literally went to the moon, and we have a whole cover story of him finding like an underground city, all this stuff. You have the minks who look up at the moon and they get Sulong for him. And then you look at Professor Clover, he has like this whole moon's kind of contraption. There's a lot of emphasis on the moon in One Piece, and I feel like there will have to be some kind of moon god blank. You know, we have sun god blank, moon god blank, Blackbeard taking on the darkness. I feel like darkness is compatible with the moon, like how light and dawn is compatible with the sun.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because if you look at the Will of D, right, the checkered fate is black and white. It could be like the sun and the moon too.
Exactly.
And so you mentioned Enel, and I was thinking about the Egyptian. Do you remember the cover story where they had like the Egyptian hieroglyphics? It looks like
Yep.
It looked like maybe like poneglyphs. And I was thinking maybe the poneglyphs too could be inspired by the Egyptians too. I don't know, but that's interesting to me that you see on the moon, and then it's these different stories and these different hieroglyphics.
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
That's fire,
that's
bro.
crazy. Like I was looking at it, I was thinking they even have these certain what is it, like the clothes they wear and everything. It looks really similar. So
Oh, Oh,
You know what I'm talking about?
that's fire. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like on the hieroglyphs, the people they had like you would think like Egyptian inspired clothes.
Yeah. They
That's
were
tight.
like in Egyptian mythology. You see, they have different animals for their head, and in the moon, right? You have the burkas and all this and everything, and then they have the animals on top of their head. So yeah, I was looking at that and I was thinking, and then so Alabasta too, because Alabasta has the Egyptian inspired too. So if these are all connected to the ancient kingdom or something, you could maybe see something there too.
Yeah, you definitely could. I would definitely say there's ties between Egypt, or at least like the Middle East, to Alabasta. You know, you have the desert and like the beautiful culture there that I really appreciate. I wish there was a little bit more about or more from it, but I really like that you brought that up, because when you look at the flag for Alabasta, I'm pretty sure it's a sun. Like Oda's putting so much emphasis on the sun and moon in One Piece, and I feel like if the story was to end without further development from here on out, I feel like it's a dropped ball, and Oda doesn't drop the ball. Like Oda has he puts a lot of emphasis and themes and plot devices in the story to actually have them surface and have some kind of conclusion. And I feel like for him to just like abandon it, like that'd be totally out of character.
I do. Yeah, you gotta trust in Oda that he's gonna bring it all together at one point, and especially on Wano right now, it's the, what did she say, Toki? It's like, you are the moon unaware of the dawn, right? So that's definitely important right now.
Yeah, they literally had like Luffy jumping in front of the moon. See, the moon being the dusk, that's Luffy, you know, emphasis on Luffy bringing the dawn. But again, like, you can't have the dawn without the dusk. You can't have the sun without the moon. Like, it's impossible. And I come from a standpoint, like, you know, I really, don't get me wrong, bro, I really considered, okay, like, what if Emu is the moon? With moon being affiliated with the dusk and darkness so much, I feel like it's, in my eyes, it's like it has to be Blackbeard. You know how people always say like, oh, Emu backwards is Umi?
Yeah.
I would say like, okay, well, what if Emu is some kind of ocean god or some kind of sea god? I think I know exactly what Emu is, but I can't spoil that right now.
It's a sneak peek, man. It's a teaser for the next video, right?
Yeah, next video I'm gonna go crazy, bro. But as far as Blackbeard goes,
yeah, actually, let's talk about Blackbeard. Let's talk about your theory about, you know, about the horse and everything.
You know, there are some details that that crossed my mind like after I put the video out, and I think they're really interesting. So I want to say it was Blackbeard versus Ace, if I'm not mistaken. There was a panel where Blackbeard's saying like, yeah, this fruit chose me. He said something like that. And you know how in chapter 1044 we learned that Zoans have a will of their own? Yeah. This is like, bruh, come on, bro.
Think about how crazy that is, that we just found out 1,040 chapters in. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you know, that I feel like that whole little dialogue of Zoans have a will of their own, mind of their own, I feel like that adds so much lore to the story. And like, the devil fruits, they could go any direction at this point. Like, we don't know what Oda's gonna pop up.
And I wonder, because is there gonna be something where that's the specific element to a zone? Maybe we'll see Logias have their own something else, not wills, but you know, they have some kind of other spiritual connection or something. I don't know, but
yeah, like they have their own quirk or something.
Yeah, but
yeah,
well, you know, for me, it's Marshall D. Preach, right? So I'm a huge Blackbeard fan. So like, whenever you drop those Blackbeard videos, man, oh man, those are my favorite. Like the first videos that I saw with you, that I was like, it was Blackbeard, the octopus one, and even the Joy Boy Jayabaya. I think you were one of the first ones that really brought that to the community, or at least got it bigger. And those two videos, man, I was like, man, I'm a fan ever since the Blackbeard and the Joy Boy theory. Those are crazy.
Hey, I appreciate that. You've been doing your thing too, bro. Like, don't think I ain't Pete, bro. Like, you're killing it, bro.
Man, it's
Keep it up.
It's fun, man. It's the theories. I love making the theories. It takes some time, but it's really fun to make those theories.
Yeah, man, it takes a lot of time. Like, if you're going in for the accuracy, and then you want to actually make the video good, like, you gotta put your heart and soul into it, and that's like the fun of it, man. Because like you I know you can relate to this, bro. Like, when it all starts from an idea, these things are in your brain, bro, and then we transform it into actual video, and people like it, and you know. Well,
even for this one, right, the raw theory, I'm looking over here, and it's like an excuse for me to go and research these things. I never knew anything about Egyptian mythology, and I'm over here just, you know, I'm looking at YouTube videos, I'm Googling different things, and it's kind of like an excuse for me to learn these things that are really interesting topics, and then put it into the video.
You know, I actually think that that's a calculated thing by Oda. I feel like there's no manga that I found or anime where I found myself like, oh, now like I gotta go research Hindu stuff, I gotta go research Buddhism. Like, it's a One Piece that does that. Like, I was watching, I don't know, like Death Note for an example. I didn't have to go research, but that's the beauty of One Piece to me, man.
Yeah, and it's crazy, man. Like I think that's the biggest appeal of One Piece for the world, man. You can see different people from all around the world, they appreciate it, and it's because Oda takes so much inspiration from different places, different cultures.
Yeah, which surely has to tie into this whole Egyptian thing. I mean,
Yeah.
Alabasta itself and being Middle Eastern inspired, like there has to be some kind of sun god Ra inspiration, moon god Horus inspiration. So,
And let me ask you this: so for Egyptians, right? There's always been some kind of speculation. How did they have all this technology? How did they have some kind of ancient technology to build the pyramids or whatever? So I was thinking maybe that could somehow play into the ancient kingdoms, like the ancient weapons. We know they had ancient technology in One Piece too.
yeah, no, that's a fire point. It seems like you have one half, I had the other half, and I'm about to combine it for you. So peep this, bro. So, just like you said, okay, how do they have this technology? How they build the pyramids in real life? Now, with the high-tech technology in One Piece, in like Marijwa, for an example, they said that it's really high-tech, all beautiful, big and majestic buildings, all that kind of stuff. And even like, what's it, like an elevator that goes up? Yeah. So they're like, okay, well, where'd that come from? Now, if you look at NL's cover story, when he goes to the moon, the machine people that were on there are the same exact ones on that planet.
Oh.
So, and then it goes even deeper than that. So I think this is a safe headcanon to say that technology in the One Piece world derived from the moon, which could be Oda's way of saying like, oh yeah, the pyramids in Egypt, bro, like that came from aliens, that came from the moons.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So technically it is alien technology.
The other thing too is in the Ra mythology, right? Ancient god Ra. He basically was the first god, so he was born from the universe. And the Egyptians, they thought it was a giant sea, a giant ocean. I was thinking too, maybe because we saw the space pirates in the cover stories. Yeah. So maybe, I mean, there's definitely something there, man.
Yeah, definitely. And then another interesting thing about Sun God Ra, I'm sure you probably know about this, maybe, but he was attacked and he had this enemy that was a giant serpent named as Apep or Apophis. So it might even be like this kind of thing where, and he was known for being evil and being embedded in darkness and stuff like that. It could be this thing where like, Oda's like, all right, Moon God Horus and, Apep, let's just combine it. And that's what Blackbeard's going to be.
Yo, check this out real quick. So in my video, I talk about the giant snakes that he would fight. And I was thinking in Skypiea, they had two giant snakes, right? They had Kashigami and Nola. In the first one, it was, they worshipped it as the fake sun god, right? And then the second one, it was Nola, and that was like the grandson, I think, or maybe the son of the first one. But in Skypiea, we see that Luffy, who is the sun god, we see him go inside of Nola. I was thinking that could be a crazy reference to the Ra theory or the Ra mythology. When he was swallowed by the giant snake.
Oh, wow. Hey, you're woke, bro.
you like that one?
Woke, bro. Yeah. I didn't even think, what? That's fire,
That's
bro.
Crazy, yeah. So it is crazy, man. Like this Ra theory, I think out of all the sun gods, I think it's definitely the closest one. If you look at creativity and he's the god of creation, there's a lot there.
Oh, yeah. Because, in these recent chapters, 1044, 1045, you see Luffy basically being the god of creation because he's manipulating the reality. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this man turned Kaido into a rubber. Like, he has the ultimate power of creativity and of creation. And Oda's just like, oh, it's imagination. Nah, bro. Yeah. Luffy is controller. He's the master of creation right now, bro.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. This is probably my favorite Luffy fight. I know people like Katakuri. They like Katakuri, they like Rauluchi, there's a lot of good Luffy fights, but I think this one, when it's all said and done, I think it's gonna be my favorite for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like to date at least. Like, don't get me wrong, like what you just said right now, like those fights are good, like they're not bad, good, but this is just like the direction of it is so different. Like there's still tension, don't get me wrong. It's not like Kaido's not gonna power up or something. I feel like Kaido has to awaken. And Luffy's lost like multiple times against Kaido, so like there is that tension there, just silliness. Like
when we saw Kaido and we see Luffy at the end punch, did you see it as he punched through Kaido, or was it like the rubber stretched through and it was like he turned him into rubber and stretched through? And then you see that it looks kind of like he punched straight through him.
Yeah. So I in my chapter review, I was confused, and I feel like I have an answer, but I'm still a little bit confused. So earlier in that chapter, he did turn Kaido into rubber. Kaido had that dialogue bubble. Yeah. So. And with Luffy's hand not being covered in blood and Kaido not having a hole in his head, I'm led to believe that Kaido is made of rubber and his face and head was bending, like when Luffy punched, quote unquote, through him. But for some reason, the artistic style for that scene was just off or weird, or I think someone said maybe armament hockey was involved. I'm not entirely sure, but I just think like Kaido was made of rubber in that moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All right. Well, it's been a good call. It's been a lot of information that I learned from, Blackbeard, and you even mentioned Emu and all of this ancient technology. I think there's definitely an Egyptian inspired right going on with Alabasta and everything. But man, it's been a great conversation, man.
Appreciate you having me on, bro.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Anyways, guys, go check out Evil, man. He's got a lot of great theories. Actually, let me ask you, is it Threevil or Evil? I always get
Everyone calls me Threevil. I don't mind it. I just say evil, but we could be big Threevil.
Threevil. For sure, man. Hey, man, appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
As you know, I'm Marshall D. Breach, and I love hearing a good Blackbeard theory. It's been a pleasure to have you on the channel, and make sure you do go check him out for some truly entertaining One Piece theories. Simply subscribing would be a great way to support both of our channels. I will leave his channel in the description, and if you are interested in Ra, the sun god of Egyptian mythology, I will also leave a playlist for that. Thanks for staying until the end, and YouTube says that you like one of these two videos. Let's see if they're right.